by volume, most of the material is 1 or 2 page summaries of sightings from members of the public.
Right.
There's some public correspondence, dear MOD, what do you think about UFOs? Why don't you tell us the truth about the aliens, etc., etc. There are some policy papers discussing how the MOD handles the subject, for example, when it crops up in the media, when it's raised in Parliament.
Really?
Those policy papers, incidentally, are always the ones that I find most interesting.
I was just going to say, they sound quite interesting indeed.
Yes.
Because that gets you into the mind of the MOD.
It does, and one of the interesting things, there's already, I think, a bit of a conspiracy theory starting about this. A lot of people said, well, there's 2,000, I mean, I was speaking, I'll come on later to talk about my personal involvement in all this, but just to indicate perhaps the problem. One journalist said to me, just as this material came out, he said, look, Nick, I'm going to do a story on this, but where do I start?
Yeah.
There's 2,000 pages here. I don't have time to go through it, and I had a quick flick, and most of it looks pretty unexciting.
Yeah.
Now, some conspiracy theorists will say that was exactly the point.
Yeah.
Best place to hide a book? In a library.
Yeah.
Best place to hide a tree? In a forest.
Right.
So maybe some people are suggesting they've deliberately released just about the most unexciting, mundane bunch of reports that they have.
And why would they do that?
To try and downplay the story. I mean, the MOD, and I'm sure we'll come on to this, the MOD doesn't know some great sinister truth about extraterrestrials.
Right.
We don't have extraterrestrial spacecraft or debris in an Air Force hangar somewhere.
No, you just ruined the whole thing.
Sorry. But neither does the MOD, sort of really like to engage on this subject. It's a difficult one for the department.
Why is that?
It's
What's
a combination.
I mean, is it the fact that they don't want to upset people, or is it that they just don't want to talk about it? I mean, what's the real reason?
It's more to do with governments not liking to say we don't know. When you look at the government and the military, obviously you always like to project a sense of strength and power and authority. The suspicion that there might be things in our airspace that run rings around our own aircraft.
Right.
The fact that, yes, from time to time these things have showed up on radar.
Yeah.
The fact that, yes, aircraft have been scrambled and the pilots have seen them and then they've managed to elude them.
Yeah.
That's not a situation that makes people comfortable. Not because they're saying these must be aliens. The MOD doesn't take a position on what these things are. But I think anyone that's really looked into it properly for the government, like myself, has concluded that there's something there, there's something going on.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we both know, because we've both been involved in various ways, the MOD are just ordinary people.
Yes.
Like you and me, like everybody else. They're ordinary people and they're interested themselves.
Oh, they are.
They don't necessarily have, a belief system in aliens, but they'd also like to know if it's true. And
absolutely.
People kind of have this concept that all MOD people are men in black with these special pens, and that they're all lying to us.
Yeah,
all the time.
the MOD, you're quite right.
They'd like to know too, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. I've met people at the MOD who are fully paid up believers in extraterrestrial visitation.
Really? And are they allowed to join organisations outside of the MOD, UFO organisations?
Yes, there'd be nothing. No, I don't think so. And
that
of
would
course,
be a conspiracy thing, wouldn't it?
well, it would be. And the other thing is, just on general security grounds, when I joined with the threat from the Provisional IRA, now with the threat from Al Qaeda, obviously you're not really supposed to go out and say, hello, I'm in the Ministry of Defence. People wouldn't want to do that as a matter of course. But if an MOD employee wanted to join the British UFO Research Association, as long as they didn't imply some sort of official link that wasn't there.
Yeah.
There would be nothing in staff regulations to prohibit that. There would, of course, be an absolute prohibition on breaking the Official Secrets Act and discussing any military or government business, but then that would apply to any MOD employee who wanted to join the local philately society.
Yeah.
So
we won't go there.
No. Well, so yeah, there are believers at the MOD, there are skeptics at the MOD, there are an awful lot of people in between, just like real life. Now, in a sense, you could say, well, that's not the real issue. The real issue is the people at the MOD who have had some involvement in the UFO project. What are their belief systems? That's a more relevant question, I think.
And has it changed people's belief systems? You know, people within the MOD who have seen reports that you may have collated or whatever, have they come along and gone, well, no, I just don't know?
Yes, that's changed my views.
Right.
I mean, I started that job when I was posted into it in 1991, thinking, well, I'm not going to find anything particularly interesting here. It's all just going to be aircraft lights and weather balloons. And I didn't really know what to expect. When I came out of that job 3 years later, I thought, that is interesting.
Even with all the knowledge that you had built up on black technology, etc., that the MOD have got, even you, have come away thinking there may be something.
There may be something, yes. I wasn't prepared to say, hand on heart, I think this must be extraterrestrial. Neither was I prepared to rule out that possibility. I know that's a bit of a politician's answer. But
it is, but it's a fascinating idea that even you, with all the knowledge, insider knowledge, that millions of ufologists around the planet would love to get their hands on, because you obviously know a lot more than most of them. Even with all that knowledge, you think that then there's a possibility.
Yes, and I wasn't the only one.
To me, that's incredible, because you know me pretty well now. You know that I'm not a skeptic. So you went in as a skeptic, saw all the knowledge and information, saw the, this is a real technology that we have, and you saw all the other stuff, and yet even you have come away thinking it's a possibility.
Yes, and like I say, I wasn't the only one. I remember some discussions we had with opposite numbers in the Defence Intelligence staff were sometimes like something out of a science fiction movie. I remember on one particular occasion, I mean, people always have this little, I mean, there are so many supposed whistleblowers in this field, particularly in America, people who claim to have worked on projects at 47 levels above top secret or whatever they come out with. Most of it nonsense, to be honest, and a lot of charlatans and wannabes in this business.
Is there real? Yeah. So it's no different to religion.
Well, I better not go there. But you hear these stories, but one of the stories is, what do they call the aliens? And you hear people say the children, the EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities. I've got a real story about that, not based on absolute certain knowledge of extraterrestrials, but clearly speculation about it. And my boss and I were at a briefing, and the person in the Defence Intelligence staff who was giving the briefing kept using this phrase throughout the briefing, and the phrase was "these people," and that was as close as he was prepared to go. And I remember my boss afterwards shaking his head in consternation. Who are these people? What did he mean by these people? And I said, well, you should have asked. He wouldn't have said. But these people is an interesting choice of phrase.
Reading between the lines.
It certainly implies occupants if you're dealing with craft. And if you meant Russians or Chinese or Americans, then why not say it?
So getting back to these latest releases, is there anything within there that gives us cause to think this is a possibility?
Yes, there are a handful of interesting cases. It's back to the point about best place to hide a book is in a library.
Right.
Most of the
So do the hard work for us.
All right. most of the cases, as I say, are just 1 or 2 page summaries. Obviously misidentifications of aircraft lights, weather balloons, bright stars and planets, and meteors.